really break it down, Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2 were basically 2-hour stand-up routines with the slightest hint of an action movie loosely covering the jokes the way Pamela Anderson's bra covers her breasts. By comparison, Deadpool 3 is exactly the same thing. But it's not quite the same thing, is it? The budget is bigger, the visuals are better, and the jokes are raunchier and hit harder than ever before, believe it or not, despite this now being a Disney property, which usually means that all the life and joy gets sucked out of it. But in this case, it doesn't mean anything.
Enhances it, really.
Oh. It's funny because back when we first heard of the Disney acquisition of all Fox superhero properties like X-Men and Deadpool, me and a lot of others understandably went, Marvel's gonna ruin Deadpool. You have no idea how this film starts. The intro of this film is as vile as it is hilarious, and it instantly lets you know that, hey, Deadpool is not tameable. Absolutely no one makes it through this movie without getting proverbially roasted to a fucking crisp. The level of shit talk that Deadpool dishes out for Logan, for Marvel, for the suits, for Fox, for himself is unparalleled to the point where it sometimes makes you wonder, was this supposed to make the cut? This seems like the kind of thing that wouldn't make the cut. Now, some people, usually boring ones, will say that some of the jokes don't land, or they're too much, or that too much of it relies on references to other IPs, and it's true. About 1/3 of the jokes are based around the sprawling histories of both these companies and their films, characters, and actors, but A, even if you don't get any of them, you still have 2/3 worth of general purpose gaggery, and B, complaining about too many jokes in a Deadpool movie is like complaining about too many tits in a Hooters. If you're not like me, first of all, congratulations, dodged a bullet there, but if you're not like me, you will enjoy this movie. It's fun, it's witty, it distracts you from your day-to-day, it's just what the doctor ordered, you'll have a gay old time. Very gay. And if you are like me, and if you're up to speed with all the nerdy culture and shit, then you've probably already seen this film. But if you haven't, you will probably shed tears laughing. I saw this film twice, one time by myself and the other time also by myself. Seriously, once by myself, once with other people. And you know how when you see a movie alone, whether in the theater or at home, it doesn't quite land as well as when you're watching it with other emotive meat sacks next to you? I remember watching Thor Ragnarok this way, and there were just plenty of moments that I acknowledged were funny, yet I did not laugh. I didn't output any kind of reaction. I laughed so many times during Deadpool and Wolverine on my own next to strangers that I had to stifle and keep it in half the time, which is tough when you can't fit it in. And it wasn't just me either, the whole theater was laughing regularly as opposed to the tepid chuckles you usually get from moviegoers. I know the prospect of me laughing terrifies some of you to the very core, but that's what I love about going to the movies. It's dark so no one can see what you're doing. One scene in particular involving a certain nice pool near the climax of the film left me with more tear streaks than a hentai girl, so take that as the glowing recommendation that it is. Now, of course, for the big question, can you take your children to see this? What? Are you high? Of course you can take them to see this. This is a children's movie. Look, I always thought the children thing was a self-solving problem. That's not how my ex-wife saw it, but still, it's a self-solving problem because kids are either too young to get the raunchier jokes, in which case you're fine, they'll ask you a million questions about it afterwards though, or they kinda know all the raunchy stuff already, and you're just in denial about it, or they're legit fans of superheroes and comics, in which case they've won, you've lost, accept it, move on, like my sanity. A word on cameos, or rather not a single word on them, because the less you know going into it, the better. I literally have talk about the cameos without spoiling them somehow written in my notes, but I won't even try. I always try to remain as spoiler-free as possible, read nothing, no press release articles, no hyping bullshit, and in this case I managed to avoid all that, and also in this case it was well worth it. Just stay off the internet, go see it, you'll thank me. Everything they did with the cameos is golden, that is all I will say. The cool thing about a very meta movie like this one, and this was also a thing in Spider-Man No Way Home, is that you can have multiple layers of story happening at the same time. There's a base layer with the actual story of the film, and then there's a meta story being told on top in the background non-invasively, and that second level really tickles your emotional balls if you're a Marvel fan, an X-Men fan, if you've been the least bit invested in these IPs at any point in the past 20 years, because much like No Way Home, it reads as not just a celebration of the accomplishments, but also an acknowledgement of the mistakes made along the way, what could have been, and a bit of a redemption and a payoff in that sense. A very subtle feeling of catharsis warming your crotch that's, nope, wait, I think I just wet myself from the action. Speaking of, I've long wanted to touch on Deadpool action in general because it is fucking awesome. I remember seeing the first Deadpool and thinking, this is something else. I mean, that movie had a budget the size of a chipmunk's penis, but still, the fight choreography had a kind of fluidity and grace and energy to it that only got better and better from sequel to sequel, and it reaches full climax in the third one. There's a level of creativity and deftness on display that you just don't really see anywhere else, and these are the kind of scenes that I'll be watching on repeat for a while just for the pure enjoyment of the action, to get that adrenaline rush sweeping down my pants, ballooning on my crotch, and the testicles, and the big cum spurt, the hardest Avenger. You know what? I think we're gonna monetize this video just fine. A lot of people still say that the first one is their favorite. For me, my favorite absolutely is the third one. This is the movie where Deadpool fully comes into his own in a way that he didn't in the previous two. If I were to nitpick, I would say Logan's backstory is a bit summarily done. They teased it for 2 acts, and then when they finally reveal it, there's not that much to reveal. That's what she said. You infer like 95% of it before that point. I was expecting there to be a bit more to it, some really shocking detail that informs his character, but it's pretty cookie cutter. It's effective, don't get me wrong, it's just, much like your unsatisfied wife, I would have liked more. The other complaint would be the main villain repeatedly not liquidating Deadpool and Logan, which is, I know it's a Deadpool movie and it's self-referential and he knows it's a movie, but knowing it's a movie is no excuse to write plot holes in a movie. But this is all a pittance compared to the bewitching, bejeweling bedazzlements bestowed right to the butthole. Deadpool and Wolverine is proof that you can do anything tastefully, that there's a right way to do things, that you can make anything work regardless of the circumstances. Can't bring back Wolverine because he's dead? Yes, you can. Can't have Deadpool in the MCU because he's too much of a nut job. That nut's on the job. Sure you can. Can't make the Marvel Cinematic Universe relevant again because you've gone from misfire to placing your chips on a now convicted felon that you then had to fire, sabotaging future main projects? You absolutely can. Just embrace the nut job. Everything that could have misfired in this movie was a home run, and it's not because it's irreverent and meta-referential. Far too many works of fiction think that those tags inherently make the thing in question funny or good. They don't. Deadpool 3 works so well because it's Deadpool, because these were the right people for the job, and because Ryan Reynolds is the undisputed king of this type of comedy, both on and off screen. It's really strange. None of us would have predicted all those years ago that Ryan/Deadpool, the underdog, this exiled pariah who kept getting passed over and not taken seriously, would have the biggest "how do you like me now" style glow up in the industry, to the point where he's now the one who's sort of helping Marvel salvage what's left of their brand. You know, life is a sequence of obscene, stupid, senseless, tragic events, briefly interrupted by the occasional moment of wholesome triumph, and Deadpool and Wolverine is exactly such a flicker of light in this industry. I really mean it, by the way. Deadpool and Wolverine is the best MCU movie because it goes all in a number of ways. Endgame was emotional, but the time travel logic was brain dead. Infinity War was splendid, but Thanos, the big bad, turned out to essentially be an idiot. That's dismaying. Every other MCU film had some kind of big monumental flaw holding it back, or too much realism, or PG friendliness, or concessions, or countless other ballsacks that it was trying to fondle all at once. On the other side of the fence, the previous 2 Fox-made Deadpool movies never had the studio's full backing. They weren't given a very big budget, the scope and plots were kept small and as far removed from anything relevant as possible, and despite their greatness, had a kind of artificial feel that I have trouble describing. Like we have this very cool version of Cable and a very cool version of Juggernaut and all this stuff, but it's fleeting. It's token. They're in and then they're gone. Because there's no underlying mythology to hold it all together, it's extremely self-contained, which comes with its own pros and cons. And Deadpool 3 solves both problems. It's big, it's bold, it's got scope, it's got a lot of big names you wouldn't expect it to have, it's got some of the most ambitious VFX shots I've seen in any movie, so it solved all of Fox's problems, but then it also has the comic book feel that the MCU movies grasped for but never quite fully reached. The dreary, messed up, supervillain-infested vibe of Old Man Logan, the zaniness of a Deadpool comic, the way it's so unashamed to be a comic book movie with all the silliness that entails. And that's really why I like movies like this in No Way Home. Beyond whatever imperfections they might or might not have, they manage to uplift and communicate emotion to make you feel something when seeing it, whether that's joy, laughter, misery, sadness, blue balls, gonorrhea, the list goes on. This is more than just a movie, it's a celebration of the past 20 plus years of superhero history, of innovation, blood, sweat and tears, trial and error, mistakes made along the way, and also a celebration of cinema, of going to the theater, forgetting about your troubles for 2 hours and coming out of it with this temporary buff to your wit, your joy, your sanity, and the cocaine is wearing off. Thanks for stopping by. You can go now. No, really, don't stay. Bye.